I just think there's a lot to do on getting our children to look beyond the key stage they're in and leapfrog a few key stages. So many young children, some of those from the, shall we say, the more deprived backgrounds that we were talking about earlier, many children don't know what you can study at university.
Yes.
They think you have to carry on doing those subjects of the national curriculum at university because they don't know about others. And somewhere in Key Stage 3, we should be taking that opportunity to say, you've had that lovely primary experience, and all this lays in front of you, the world of work, the world of further and higher education. And these are some of the things that people do in that world. So if you want to go towards those things, here are the ways in which
it's the final stage before they make choices at 14, isn't it?
That's right, and sometimes the choices are built on very shaky ground because the children haven't had that width of experience to know what the choice is about.
I mean, you describe it as getting rid of the clutter. That's one thing, but the minute you've got this flexibility and you're saying to teachers, you know, make decisions themselves, you've got two risks, I suppose. One is that children miss out again. And, you know, the old story of the good at English, they can do English all day. Or second, at the very least, it's difficult to monitor what each child has done. I mean, the present structure of 40 minutes of this, 40 minutes of that might have many weaknesses in it has, but at least you know which subjects each child has covered. And I know they may not have done it effectively. Is that a worry that you might be moving along the road of freedom and you might clash in and take away entitlement?
Yeah, the present structure of 40 minutes followed by 40 minutes by 40 minutes at least tells you what you've delivered.
Yes.
What it doesn't tell you is whether they've got it.
Yes.
And I think we've got to take a step that says, what is the best way to put this together? So going back to my sort of analogy of the ingredients, if you imagine you've come back from the market with all the ingredients from a lovely salad and you've got some tomatoes and some cucumber, some lettuce, some onions, some sweet corn, some mushrooms and so on. What we currently do is we say we'll have 40 minutes of tomatoes, then a bell will ring, and you get 40 minutes of cucumber, then after a 15-minute break you settle down to double onions.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that's the best way to enjoy a salad. Now, some parts of it are right on their own. Sometimes you just crunch on the tomato and it's good.
And that will still be the case. Sometimes there's a need to teach a subject separately.
Absolutely. And many times there's a need to teach a subject separately. The challenge is the rigour with which we teach it, so children dig deep and they really understand that period of history, or they really understand the learning about that location in history. But in the curriculum that we've proposed, every subject starts with what are the big ideas in this subject? What are the important things that children need to learn during Key Stage 3? And I think that's more important than did they know this fact, did they know that date, can they recall it?
Do you sometimes feel like poacher turned gamekeeper? Because I reckon if you said to teachers, what is it that stopped you innovating in the curriculum? Why haven't you taken these risks? QCA would be one of the organisations which they cited. They said, well, I couldn't because of the curriculum. So to an extent, it's quite a clever in the nicest sense of the word, it's quite a clever and a difficult trick you're trying to pull off, that QCA is going to be the great liberator now rather than the great restrictor of innovation.
Oh, well, I think that's a good point.
Is that how you're positioning yourself?
Yeah, I mean, QCA is a fascinating organisation, and the word authority on the end of it is an interesting one to explore. If you're an authority, you can get your authority by telling people what they have to do, or you can get your authority by building credibility, building in people a trust about what you're trying to develop, and being the conjurer of innovation. And I think our challenge is to get people to believe sufficiently in the curriculum that they can make it work for their youngsters. I do believe that over the years we stopped talking about the curriculum. We talked all the time about the national curriculum. I mean, I'm director of curriculum. It is the curriculum authority for the nation. We are not the national curriculum authority. We are the curriculum authority for the nation.
Subtle difference.
And over years, QCA has been drawn into conversation endlessly about the national curriculum and not the bigger curriculum.
I was going to ask you that, but how much were you bearing in mind the move potentially to keep all 16 to 19-year-olds in education and training? Because I can't make up my mind whether that's a big change or not, to tell you the truth, because it's not keeping them in school, but it's part of what you're doing with the younger years of secondary. Do you have in mind the fact that within a few years we could have everybody under the age of 18 in educational training?
Yes, and I think that's the point I was making earlier about throughout the school system, we have to give youngsters a picture of pathways that are available to them to take them into work, into further education, into training, into higher education. And that can start way back in nursery. I've got some brilliant examples of people working in nurseries talking about the world of work for children.
Sure.
And it's that picture of pathways that are available rather than which pathway is the best for you yet. Let's keep talking about possibilities and where we might go.
I wanted to talk a bit about qualifications because I think there's still I suppose we've got into the habit of national tests and results day and the rest of it, because I still think there's a bit of lack of clarity about what the proposals are here. The minute you start giving people freedom to do things, it means that assessment has to have that flexibility as well. Now, alongside your work, we've got the proposals from the government that somehow will loosen up on the key stage tests. The changes you're making, what changes will need to happen in assessment?
In the secondary review?
In the secondary review, in order for your curriculum to really get hold of schools.
I mean, if you look at some of the ways we test children, they're not exactly modern in the sense that they're part of our tradition and there are other options available. And I think what the government are doing is thinking about the other options, and the progress testing development is a step towards seeing whether we can be more effective in our assessment, but at the same time maintain the confidence of parents and community.
I mean, Ken Boston, the Chief Executive of the QCA, suggested you do that by testing a sample of children at those key stages rather than every single child, sort of to give you that national picture.
Well, one of the challenges in assessment is that we're using the end of key stage tests for lots of purposes.
That's right.
And what Ken's talking about is the purpose, which is to measure standards over time, could be met on a sampling basis. That doesn't meet the challenge of helping teachers to provide the right instruction, the right techniques for their children tomorrow as a result of the assessment that's done today.
Do you have to make the teachers less nervous about the assessment and all that accountability framework?
Well, what we know is that it's not the assessment, it's the accountability framework
what
and
putting
what
things in the
happens
public
afterwards.
domain and the league tables.
Now, my experience in Manchester and Birmingham was that the worry about weak results led to a narrowing of the curriculum. And we had to basically, in both places, talk about, is that what we want for our children? And we decided we were going to give, in both those places, children a rich experience, an experience that mattered, and we were going to make learning real. And when we did that, the basic results went up anyway. So if you look at the profile of achievement, of attainment in those two cities, they rose dramatically while the curriculum was made broad and rich and interesting for young people. So it's not one or the other. But many schools think it is. I do understand the worry. I really understand it.
But some have the confidence to go beyond that and take the risks. It's about giving the rest that confidence.
I'm not sure it's a risk, though. I think the risk is...
I think I agree with you. They feel it's a risk.
Yeah, it's the interval between doing this and showing that it's working is the worry, because if something dreadful happens in that period, we're all accountable. It's the accountability framework that is actually at the heart of some of the worries. So, you know, when a child gets to 13 and does its Key Stage 3 SATs, Key Stage 3 assessments, it has only previously been tested nationally once.
That's exactly right.
Right,
yeah.
so it's not exactly overburdening with testing, but it's what happens to the testing that worries teachers.
I have to say, some of the words you're using in this new curriculum flummox me. I mean, curriculum lenses, curriculum dimensions. I mean, what's the point of using phrases like that are just something else to learn? And, you know, I should think parents have just about got used to Key Stage 1, 2, 3 and 4, and now you're plonking this other language. And I think my question really is, you know, the curriculum's one of those areas of education that gets laden down with specialist language, and you've done a little bit more of it. Are you aware of that, or is it language for the profession only?
Oh, the jargon.
The jargon.
Yeah. Well, every profession has its jargon, doesn't it? And we have to live with that. I think there's the balance to be played between using jargon and trying to make things accessible. The word lenses came about because we were trying to say there's more than one way of looking at the curriculum.
I see.
And how should we look at it? We can look through different lenses.
Right.
And you might look in designing your curriculum. You may start from the subjects and say, let's design with a subject basis. But you could use the lens of the Every Child Matters agenda.
Yes.
So if you're a school but needs to focus really heavily on children's health prospects because they really matter. Maybe if you looked at the curriculum through the lens of health, you would see some ways forward that hadn't been appropriate before. So our efforts on the lenses was just simply a way of saying, here's a different way of looking at the curriculum.
So it's a tool for teachers more than new terminology and curriculum.
It's not new terminology, it's just a way of helping people through the design process. And we are trying to produce the curriculum as a web-based, on a web-based format, so that anybody logging on can find their way through the design process by using these lenses as starting points. So I doubt many people in the world beyond schooling would want to do that. They're very welcome to. It'll be a public website.
Okay.
New words come along all the time.
Well, I've learned it in preparing for this interview, so there you are. It's become part of my language as well. Right, just take things broad. I mean, I suppose when you started off as a young teacher, you dreamt for a minute you'd end up, being director of the curriculum for the nation rather than the national.
No, it's lovely,
rather than national curriculum, director of curriculum for the nation. And you've not just been an administrator. You have been a classroom teacher. Looking back and looking forward, how important is the curriculum? What's the power of the curriculum? It's your everyday job now, and there's a danger when that happens that you give it in your own mind more importance than it's got. Where do you slot it in? Not in terms of hierarchy, but what's its special and what does it offer that nothing else can? And how important is it?
So if you say where's the curriculum fit, I think it's very near the front of what matters. Those schools that think hard about the curriculum achieve more for children. Absolutely sure about that. In front of it, I would probably put the quality of teaching because I can offer you the ingredients, but unless you can sort them out, well, what can we do? And then there are all those other things, that ability to relate to parents and community, that ability to make children think they can do this, that ability to make children think learning's worth it, mean that the quality of teaching is also about the quality of relationships, that ability to make people wonder and make people think and make people question. And when you see adults who are really learning still and want to know more, then you've got an image to show children about what it can offer and what it can open for them. So I think the curriculum really matters. It's about the only job I would have done nationally. But it's not standalone,
it can't survive without the other things
curriculum on its own won't get anywhere, will it? It'll just rot. You've got to bring it to life and you've got to do things.
Success somehow is getting all those things in the same place at the same time.
So I think my job as at QCA and QCA's job is to create professional contagion around the curriculum, create a sort of national enthusiasm for this thing, so that we do, as we said at the beginning, so that we do look back as a country at what we've done for our youngsters and say that was worth it, and aren't we proud of it, and shouldn't we delight in the way our youngsters are developing?
Mick Waters, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.